Hi guys, and welcome back to this tutorial. We are in video 1 and we want to understand how we can make the nose compatible, and how we can prepare the model so we can use that for Texturing XYZ, and we can make sure that we have enough density to sculpt on top of it. So we will prepare the model together, and what is really important for us to understand is that this is the kind of model we will prepare, or this one probably is a little bit better to see for us. This is the kind of model we want to prepare. The idea of this split is that we can subdivide it even further, and we can even further than having the full body, because like if I have the full body as one piece, let me show you the problem. This will be the full body at one piece, and here I'm already at 11 million polygons. And let's say that I want to start sculpting on the nose. You can see that here it's not really possible. I do not have enough density. I'm limited by the number of polygons I will have on the nose. So I want to sculpt some kind of displacement like the ones I have on my reference. Like this one, I want to sculpt this kind of displacement, but because I'm at 11 million polygon, then you see, using my brushes, 11 million polygon on the full body, but using these brushes, I cannot achieve the kind of pattern I'm looking for, because I'm limited by the density of polygons, the full density of polygons I have globally on the model. So what can I do to resolve this issue? So we want to work on a split. We want to work on a tiny area, and this tiny area, especially for this tutorial, because this tutorial is covering how we can do a nose, but it will be exactly the same if you want, for example, to prepare your own version of scales for a creature you're working on, or your own pattern for a creature you're working on. So you want to isolate the parts of the model on which you want to work on and on which you want to achieve your details. Then once you will do that, what will be super useful is that you will be able to unwrap the UVs again. And the idea of unwrapping the UVs again on this specific area is that instead of having a texel density or pixel density like this that is global, we'll have much more density. You will see that the size of the square is much smaller on the pieces that has been separated. We'll have much more density on the nose itself, which means at the end of the day, what you are extracting, it's a lot more polygons occupying the space, meaning that you will have more pixels. So if you have more pixels, you will have more fidelity when you will project your displacement directly inside of Mari, and you will recover more information from your displacement. So you can decide, and that's something I did for this particular tutorial, you can decide to work on your own model, the model on which you want to achieve the details. Like, for example, we are speaking of the dog nose, and we will work on a dog nose. But you can totally do the same on a sphere, for example. If you prefer to work on a sphere, because for you it makes more sense, it's more of a neutral base, of a blank base, it's a blank canvas, it doesn't have any information, so maybe it's easy for me to like subdividing this sphere to like 8 million polygons and start achieving my pattern on this sphere. And then I can extract this pattern, and I will keep on sculpting it until I'm happy. And once I'm happy with this pattern, then I can extract it and convert it into a displacement using the same exact technique. But again, it's a neutral base for me, so it may be easier for me to achieve some kind of patterns on a sphere. But because here what we want to do is we want to have something that will embrace the shape, the anatomy of a dog nose, I think it makes more sense to work on a model that already have this anatomy, that already have this topography, this kind of topology and shape. By the way, this tutorial is not a tutorial about how to sculpt. I will not show you how to sculpt this kind of displacement. What I want to show you in this part 1 video is how to prepare the model, not how to sculpt it, but how to prepare it so you can subdivide it, get more polygons, maximize the texel or pixel density, and extract that as a displacement. So let's take the body, full body of our creature, and let's start to see how we can prepare it. So the idea of preparation is, again, maximizing the density on just one specific area. So I will isolate the body. I will probably kill all the other meshes to make sure that I do not shoot myself in the foot with too many subtools. We just want to focus on this part of the body. Then what I will do is I will make it its own polygroup, something that I already did, by the way. And the way I do that is, instead of trying to do a polygroup directly from the highest level of definition of subdivision, what you can do is you can make a polygroup based on the lowest level of subdivision. And it's much easier for you to do that, to select the continuity of your topology by going on the lowest level of subdivision. But also what you are doing is you will be able to rebuild the level of subdivisions when you do the split. If instead you decide to do your polygroup based on the highest level of subdivisions, then you will see that like for example, I do this selection, then do Control W. Then this selection is not based on the lowest level of subdivision. So if I start isolating just this area and then killing all the other level of subdivision, because I do not have a consistent number of polygons anymore, then I will not be able to rebuild my level of subdivision. So this is why whenever I'm doing my polygroups, I'm basing my polygroups on the lowest level of subdivisions, so I can rebuild the subdivision and not on the highest level of subdivision. So you can do your selection based using your transpose tool, like I did here. For example, if I just want to isolate this part of the model, I can do it with my transpose tool, maybe invert that. Invert it, and Control W to isolate just the nose. Or you can decide to just paint your polygons yourself by hand. I'm using the mask lasso. You can use a mask pen or whatever tool you want to use in order to split the area you want to work on. And also make sure that you only isolate the specific areas that you are working on. Like for example, what I did was to put this in a separate groups, because what I will end up sculpting will only be the facing area of the nose. I will only sculpt this area. This is what is interesting for me, and this part is just additional pixels, additional polygons that will end up having no information because I will not sculpt them. So I want to get rid of them. I'm placing them in their own polygroups. So what I will do is I already have my selection of polygroups. So I will just click in the middle of all these polygroups so I can make them part of a single selection, then Control W, and this is my nose split. If I definitely want to get more security, I can also add another loop or another polygon, and then I have more density to work on. Then I can isolate this part, go back on the highest level of subdivision, do a delete lower, and now we have, so that's what the limiting point I told you before. We are looking at the nose, but we only have like 300,000 faces. What we'll be able to do is to go maybe to 15 million polygons instead. Once we have our selection that is isolated in the viewport and we do not have any more level of subdivisions, then what we can do is we can go in modify topology and do a delete hidden. And it will delete all the hidden faces in this scene. So if I Control Shift and click on an empty space again, you can see that I don't have anymore the rest of the body. Now that I have that, I could start dividing the model even further to add more polygons, but instead of doing that directly, we need to be able to rebuild the level of subdivisions. So we will hit reconstruct subdivisions a couple of times. You do not have to go all the way to the lowest level of subdivisions, because this one is definitely made for animation, made for riggings, made for technical purposes, but it's not the one that we'll use for rendering. So you can maybe go to level 3 and use this level of subdivision as base. Then go back to the highest level of subdivision, and from now on we can start dividing our mesh. And even further, and now we have access to 21 million polygons just for the nose, meaning that when we'll start sculpting the nose, we'll get much more density, much more details for the nose, and we can use that now to start sculpting some details and extract them as displacement map in the end that will be projectable. Okay, so we have that now. If I'm having a look at and I can do that, I can just check that I have UVs on this guy, because again, it's super important. Without UVs, you can't export any displacement map. So that's why it's super important to have UVs. Let's just also get rid of these details. And once more. Cool, okay. So this is my neutral version. Let's rename it. Nose split. I can also add another mesh in the scene to make sure that the first one will be renamed and not the second one. Let's add this, the idea of ZBrush having a second mesh before, in the list of subtools before the one that you are using. That basically whenever you will save your subtool, your ZTL file, then the first one will be renamed with the name of your ZTL file, but the second one will keep its current and correct name. Okay, so we have that, that is ready. We need to check if we have UVs. I will go in texture map, apply a UV checker. Okay, so I still have UVs, but the problem is I have the same exact density as the one I had before with the full body attached to this this part of the nose. So I need to get rid of that, and I need to make sure that I have much more density just for this part of the nose. Oh, something I forgot to do is also to split this interior of the nose in area that I will never sculpt, but it's fine. I will not split it, I will just leave it somewhere else in the UVs. Okay, so let's do that. Let's start preparing our UVs and do a second unwrap. So we'll go on the lowest level of subdivision. And on this lowest level, then what you want to do is you want to start, if you have like me, areas that are unnecessary, you want to split them in their own polygroups. Like this is unnecessary, I think I will never sculpt on this area. Okay, this is the interior of the nose. Yeah, I will never sculpt this area. So we'll just hit Ctrl W. So it's in its own polygroup. And then I can go in the plugin, UV master. And in UV master, I can check the polygroups options. Then I will click on unwrap. Now check again if I have UVs. And I have new UVs, and as you can see, we have much more density than what we had before, meaning that we have way more pixels that will be exported. So next things we can do is we can optimize even further this UV layout. You do not have to do it, it's just something that you can do if you want to optimize or to customize your unfold of the UVs. Like here, I can export that as OBJ, export just the level 1. It's important you work on the level 1 for the UVs. Then I can go in Maya, just save this, create a new scene. In this new scene, I will import my new UVs. So let me find them. Scene, Z tool. Okay, so this is a mesh I exported. Then I will import that, look at it, go in my UV editor, and just make sure that, again, the UVs have been well unwrapped, or I can do a second manifold in this one. And also what I want to do is I want to reduce this density, because it doesn't make sense to have this information there. That's just the inside of the nose. We do not want this to occupy any space in our map, so we can just reduce them by a lot put them in an area where they will not occupy any interesting space. Then pick the nose and do a second unfold, because maybe the one from my eye is slightly better, will offer less distortion. Then maximize the density by scaling up the nose. And what you can do is, it's okay if you have a bit of deformation, because we'll project that. But I can, like, for example, pick this, do a slight rotation like this, so just in this space. Do the same for this area. Okay. Then again, pick the nose, put that in the middle, and start to trying to occupy as much space as possible from my UV shelf. And this is what I have. This is my new UV density. So once I'm happy with this one, I can export it again. The tool, new UVs. Okay, go back in ZBrush. In ZBrush, I will insert a new mesh, let's insert a sphere. On this sphere, I can import my new geometry, which is node 008 underscore UVs. Okay, so I have this one that is the UVs. Let's rename it UVs. Then I can copy the UVs from this one to this one by going back into the plugin UV Master, do copy UVs, pick the other one, as long as they have the same vertex ID or same vertex ID, then the UV should be able to copy from mesh 1 to mesh 2. And if I check the new UVs now, I have all the density I need. Okay, so we are almost done with the model prep. The last thing I wanted to show you is how ideally you want to prepare your model before the sculpt. Let me load again my version that has been sculpted with all the details to show you how I've prepared the model before I started to sculpt it. So I will just pick this guy, go in layer. Do I have any layer? Is it on this version where I have layers? I should have layers. Nose UVs, primary, micro. No, okay, so it's probably on the previous version. This one is probably not the best one to show you. The sculpt is good on this one, but probably I messed up with the layers. So let's go one version before. Then go in layers, yes. So what I did on my mesh was to isolate every different layers on every different density, every different patterns and volumes on their own layer. And you want to do that. You want to preserve a version of the mesh that is just the anatomy. When I say just the anatomy, this is, for example, just the anatomy. So you want to preserve this version of the model. Then maybe you can duplicate it just to make sure that you have a save for this one. And then you want to have another one with all your sculpts. So if I'm showing you the sculpt one layer by one, show you how it's been done, because it's not a sculpting tutorial, it's a displacement tutorial. So you will be able to find out how to sculpt your the nose details yourself. But just to show you how I did it, because it's important to split things. So when you will export your displacement, you will have one displacement with the anatomy. So the anatomy displacement, let's call it the anatomy displacement. Then you will have another displacement with your sculpt. So this one, so P1 is pattern 1, P1V1 is pattern 1 volume 1, P1V2 is pattern 1 volume 2, P1V3 is pattern 1 volume 3, and finally P2 is pattern 2. So let's sum them up together. So you see, this is like the first pattern has been sculpted on P1, then the volume has been done on P2, P1 volume 1, Then the second volume has been done on P1 volume 2. Then the third pass on the volume has been done on P1 volume 3. And finally, I had a second pattern that I wanted to add. And this one has been done in P2 for pattern 2. And on top of that, what I did was a general noise. So they have been exported as their own displacement. So we had the anatomy displacement. Now this is the skull displacement. And finally, the last displacement that we want to export is just this noise. This noise. So if I'm removing that, all the other layers, now I have just the noise that can be exported as its own displacement. And that's how we can achieve the Texturing XYZ style. We export the anatomy. The anatomy, we export it so we can remove it from the other pieces. We can have just the manual sculpt of the details. Then we export the version with all the details. And then we export the microscopic displacement. So it will become more clear once we jump into Nuke and we will see how we can manipulate this different displacement. Again, make sure that you work with a safeguard, that you duplicate the model, and that you do all this kind of adjustment, all this kind of sculpting on layers. So you can go back, you can go backward, you can go one version up, and you can remove the layers if it doesn't work, but you can also export different displacement, separated displacement. So this is it for the model prep. Now we have the model that is ready, we have the skull that is ready, we also have UVs. Now that we have UVs, what we can do is we can start exporting displacement and see how we can compile them into Nuke. And this will be the explanation, this will be the tutorial for the next video. So guys, see you in the next chapter.